Welcome to the Ideagen EU Global Goals Summit. Today we are thrilled to have with us Peggy Pelonis, President of ACS Athens. Peggy, welcome.
Thank you, George. It's great to be here. It's great to see you.
Well, Peggy, always great to see you, especially, when we're convening global leaders every day, conversations constantly. It's enlightening and inspiring to have you with us, especially with the incredible panel that you have assembled today from literally across the world to be able to drive into the EU and a vantage point on global goals, on the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. We're just so looking forward to this and can't wait to hear all of the incredible insights and perspectives that you will drive through. I would like to take a moment as well to thank you for your global leadership on education. You are the embodiment of global leadership, and I think everyone should take a look at what you're doing at ACS Athens. For the millions of people that will be watching this programming and this interview, I think it's really important to drive into and to look at the work that you're doing at ACS Athens. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to you, Peggy, to introduce your incredible panel.
Thank you so much, George, for that introduction. And I'm just so excited to be speaking with everyone here today as they're doing such incredible things towards sustainability and improving life for everyone on the planet. There's no doubt that this has been an extremely challenging year globally, and humanity has certainly been tested. And one of the things I think that got us through and compelled us to keep going, I believe, was the collaboration with others who experienced similar issues, and together we looked for solutions. And as we all know, the global goals, the very last global goal, perhaps not by chance, the 17th one, is about partnerships and cross-sector collaborations, and how important it is to come together in order to spread the knowledge and the work so that as to implement solutions on a larger scale and solutions with greater impact. So I'm very excited to be here today and to introduce everyone who is making such a difference out in the world so humbly. Let me start first off with Hanne Dalmut, Director of Partnership Development of the Concordia Summit, an education that is devoted to making social impact. Welcome, Hanne.
Hi, Peggy. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm looking forward to sharing more about what Concordia does to strengthen the partnering ecosystem through its Convene, Connect, Create model and its work to bring together leaders from cross-sector units to really address the pressing global issues that are facing us at this time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Hanne. Michailidis, co-founder with his wife Carla Tanis of Industry Disruptors Game Changers, as they work together to build ecosystems across the globe.
Hello, Peggy. Thank you very much for the invitation. I couldn't agree more with George about actually what ACS Athens does as a global education leader. And I'm very happy to be here to share our perspective and our experience as global ecosystem builders and the challenges we face in the agricultural sector, pro-COVID and during COVID.
Great, Michaili. Good to have you. Melina Topradzi, founder of Weiss Greece, a very innovative business model in the food industry, which has won multiple awards. Melina, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you and discussing the post-COVID era.
Wonderful. Vassilis Michailidis, Chief of Staff at the Home Project, working with unattended refugee minors, the Home Project, which has a very special place in my heart as we work together to educate some of these young unattended refugee minors through our Youth to Youth program. Vassili, welcome.
Thank you, Peggy. Nice to meet you. I'm here to discuss about the opportunities, especially when we speak about sustainable development goals, specifically for high standards of education and quality education, especially to populations that they are vulnerable, like unaccompanied minors that they are right now in Greece and under the Home Project care. So I am honored that I'm here and I have the opportunity to share that experience that we have with the collaboration with ACS Athens.
Thank you, Vassilis. Elina Pipa, a rising senior at ACS Athens, working with children's human rights with the organization Smile of the Child. Welcome, Elina.
Thank you so much for having me today, Dr. Pelonis. And it's not every day that a student gets to have the opportunity to speak at such a big platform and have their voices heard so much. So today I'd really want to bring in the student perspective on the Sustainable Development Goals and how important it is for us to learn as young people these Sustainable Development Goals, as well as discuss the implications of the proper implementation of children's rights and how very much connected the implementation of children's rights in governments all over the world is very much connected to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030.
Thank you, Elina. And Yana Darili, media executive, but Yana is also doing significant work with the United Nations for a number of years as a panel moderator in the Salas Club and organizing panels around the idea of wellness and well-being, as well as equality. Welcome, Yana.
Welcome, everyone. Hello. It's an honor to be part of your distinguished panel here. Thank you for having me. Dr. Pelonis, congratulations on everything you do. As you know, for years, I'm here to support on any level from the media side of things, but also from an integrative nutrition side of things. Just to bring it integrated all together so we can help educate and raise awareness to not only people in general, but children. We want to raise awareness to students because they're our future.
Thank you, Yana. It's great to have you. And you've just flown in from New York, so I'm sure the jet lag is setting in. Let me begin with Hanne with Concordia. And I know that Concordia is dedicated to actively fostering, elevating, and sustaining cross-sector partnerships for social impact. Now, you bring together, Hanne, various leaders from around the world, and they convene to solve global issues. Can you tell us a little bit more about the organization and your work towards resolving the SDG issues by bringing these leaders together?
Thank you so much, Peggy. Concordia is a New York-based nonprofit that believes in the power of public-private partnerships and cross-sector collaboration to address the pressing global issues of our time. We were launched in 2011 and started as a very small convening, really believing that to get the work done that needed to be done, you have to bring in different actors with different perspectives to talk and to really engage about what they were doing. Since we started as a small conference, we've now grown to being the largest and most inclusive event alongside the UN General Assembly each year. And we hold regional programs in Latin America, in Europe, Greece as well, and then this year we're launching out into Africa as well. So we take this model of bringing together world leaders, leaders from multinational corporations, as well as small and medium enterprises, and then of course academics and civil society stakeholders who can bring in rich experience as well. And what we try to do is design conversations and space for them to be directly collaborating around what needs to be done. We're issue agnostic, so we cover everything from the food security spaces that some of the other panelists are doing amazing work on, refugee and migration areas. We're very familiar with the beautiful mission and impact the Home Project is achieving in Athens, all the way to diplomacy and defense and the big issues that policy leaders grapple with. Everything we're doing, though, is thinking through the lens of partnership. And how do we actually make those partnerships more successful? And that comes to what my work is. As Senior Director of Partnership Development, I get to work with our member organizations and other leaders around the world to think through their strategies, to think through where they're trying to go. And once the SDGs were created in 2016, it created this framework, this template, this language for everyone to collaborate around. And it really spurred a partnering moment. And you started to see it being written into people's strategy documents, becoming more and more of an element that they wanted to engage with. But that didn't make partnering any easier, right? We knew we had to partner. We knew where we had to partner, but we didn't always know how to partner. And that's a skill set. That's a an infrastructure that's yet to be built, or it's in the process of being built. And so that's where my work comes in, and where Concordia works year-round outside of its events, again, to really think through what kind of inputs need to go in, what kind of skills need to be developed, and how we can make partnering more efficient and more effective for those stakeholders so that they use it time and time again, so that it's a positive experience that deliver the results that each partner entity is looking to accomplish. And we know those results, those metrics, those impact points, those are different for the private sector, the public sector, and civil society, but they're all important. And so that's what we're doing. We see the Sustainable Development Goals as a very important pathway for us to be on. And we're very proud as an organization to be bringing together the type of attention and stakeholders to those goals that we're able to do each year.
And Hanne, let me ask you now, we see that labor, diversity, and inclusion are fundamental themes in today's media, and especially with the protests that we recently witnessed in the United States. How does your organization leverage groups to tackle these kinds of challenges?
Thank you. That's a very important question, one very near and dear to my heart, as I am in the United States right now. And it's a conversation that our country must be having honestly and authentically. We can't phone this in. We have to do it right. We have to do it better. And that's a space where partnerships can come into place. I recently wrote a piece on how diversity and inclusion can be a very effective tool towards improving on some of the equality and equity challenges that my country faces at the moment. And it can be a very powerful way to shift dynamics and expectations and perceptions and stereotypes. I think it's a bit of a renaissance moment right now for the human rights or the talent management teams, and they're suddenly on the front lines of all of this conversation. They've obviously played a major role in things like labor rights and risk mitigation for value chains, but all of a sudden they're being tasked with this opportunity to diversify their workforce and to create meaningful, good work. And they should be doing that in partnership and in accordance with standards laid out by groups like the ILO or the ITC. But coming into how partnerships can actually play a part in this, one of the biggest things that I want to see take place is for companies to be thinking not just about who's in their office day in, day out, and we can debate whether office models still exist in a post-COVID world, of course, but outside of their immediate workforce, how are they leveraging their value chain, their procurement side, and how can they more effectively use their own value chain and purchasing power to enact some of the values and some of the impacts that they're trying to espouse at the moment. So can they change who they're purchasing from and diversify that and be more integrated into a global movement that's empowering more and more people in an equitable way?
Thank you. And speaking of labor force, let me move over to Michailidis, who, as co-founder of Industry Disruptors and Game Changers, which we started in 2012 in order to assist the Greek youth in a time of severe crisis and unemployment rate, high unemployment rates. But now it's become one of the largest independent ecosystem builders in Greece. So, Michailidis, can you tell us a little bit more about your work and how exactly did you build it so broadly?
Actually, it started back in 2012 as a reaction of health entrepreneurs that survived the crisis and they wanted to do something about giving back to the Greek youth. And what we did, and we started just how to help and to grow the entrepreneurial mindset here in Greece. But what actually happened is it had a very rapid growth all over the world, and especially on building a new mindset. Because what we try to do is disrupting the mindset on how you perceive entrepreneurship and democratizing entrepreneurship and giving opportunities to all different aspects of youth. And this is how also agro became integral for us. We saw that, and now we saw that different continents have different issues, and that the agro part, the agri-food part is a very integral on how we're gonna actually face the critical issues and the SDG goals, because if you see them at the end of the day, most of the problems can be resolved, of the SDG issues can be resolved through the agriculture. And also we had a very critical issue that by 2050 we need to feed 9 billion people in a healthy way, and that until now it's not possible.
And that was exactly my next question, Mihaly. A lot of people do say that if we tap into agriculture, we can solve all of the sustainable development goals. And can you just comment a little bit about that more? And what are some of the partnerships that you've developed that strengthen this work?
Yes. Actually, we've been now working closely with FAO, and we are part of the Committee of Food Security, and also with the European Union, and a special initiative that they have with the European Institute of Technology, focusing on food. And through our research and working with global communities, we realized that actually there are three main issues, three fundamental challenges that can be addressed in order to also see how we handle the SDG goals. And the first one is trust, because we don't know where food comes from. And also the supply chains got much bigger and much longer and more complex. And of course, is a different path on learning to collaborate, because it's much more complicated now how we end from the farm to fork as a process. The second thing, the second is education, because for food for centuries was actually a medicine, and now has turned to a calorie filler. And we have developed seriously our tastes, but the eatable species that we use are very few in respect to how many thousands of eatable species we have. And also an integral part, very important part, is understanding our soil and natural ecosystem. That will give us the ability to understand the integration between self, environment, society. And this is fundamental for our education system. And the third thing, the third challenge, is that small farmers, smallholder farmers that around the world have been pushed to the corner, to the end of this chain. And this actually is the bottom line. This small farmer is the bottom line of the whole supply chain, and are the people working behind the scenes. So as much as technology needed in order to disrupt all these small farmers and big lands in order to be able to produce more, the same important is how we take care of these small farmers and how they have the capability of raise their voice, and how we will protect them to continue to produce healthy. I believe that these are the key issues that we face with different aspects in all 64 countries that we operate in all 5 continents. Peggy, I cannot listen to you. You are muted.
Thank you, Mihaly, very much. And food is such an important part of sustainability. And speaking of food, moving right over to Melina and the innovative business model that she works with that creates such important social impact. But before I move on to the questions, Melina, I just want to outline some of the so impressive awards that you are a recipient of, including Models of Excellence Award by the President of the Hellenic Republic, the Startup Greece Award, the European Social Challenge Award, Beyond Plastic Mediterranean Award by the Prince Albert of Monaco Foundation, and Melina, for you specifically, You were chosen as a young, innovative leader by the German Marshall Fund and the U.S. Department of State. That's quite impressive, and I'm humbled just thinking about that. But can you tell us a little bit about Wise Greece and highlight some of the things that you're doing and the results that this is having?
Thank you, Peggy, very much for the introduction. So Wise Greece is a social enterprise with a double mission. On the one hand, we help the small Greek farmers and producers, food producers, to grow and export their products, while at the same time, we use our profit from the sales of the products in order to buy food supplies and donate it to orphanages, to soup kitchens, and to the 3 million Greeks who live below the poverty line. So this is why we point out that we have a double mission, because on the one hand, we actively help the backbone of the Greek economy, which is the small family-owned businesses, as we all know. And on the other hand, we manage to provide high-quality food supplies to people in need. So far, we work with 100 food producers from all over Greece, with more than 2,500 products. We export in 8 countries, including the US, of course, and we managed to donate more than 50 tons of food to people in need. So to answer your question, I think this is why Wise Greece has received many awards for its innovative business model and its social impact.
Melina, you heard some of the challenges that Mihaly outlined in relation to agriculture. How do you think? What do you think about that? Can you comment on some of the challenges that you have been facing through your business model?
I couldn't agree more with Michailidis. He knows that. We've been discussing about this issue a lot of times. But what I see, especially in Greece, is that the food producers and the farmers are, too small for anyone to care. So that's what we tried to do with Wise Greece for the past 5 years. We tried to connect all those small farmers and food producers and help them, raise their voice and negotiate as one. And we're really proud that we've managed to inspire 100 Greek entrepreneurs and 100 Greeks, and I'm pretty sure that Greeks understand what I'm saying right now, to work together for a good cause. And that's one of our highlights.
That is very impressive. And, we think of food and we think of home, and I'm going to move right over to Mihaly and the Home Project, because what they provide for these young unattended refugee minors is much more than a house. It's a home. And Mihaly, can you tell me a little bit about the Home Project and how it came to be, and what are some of the issues that young unattended minors face?
Hi, Peggy. Thank you. First of all, let me tell you what the Home Project is. The Home Project is a non-profit organization with a mission to provide child protection services and have the ultimate aim of social inclusion of them, of unaccompanied minors that they live in Greece. What is an unaccompanied minor? It's a term that is described to use thousands of children that travel across the world right now, fleeing their homes and traveling alone. The reasons vary, but they try to escape from war, from poverty, persecution, gender inequalities, a lot of things that, especially in SDGs, we speak that they are, human rights violations. To get an understanding, for example, right now in Greece, only in Greece, we have almost 5,000 unaccompanied minors living, and from those minors, almost 3,000 children are outside of long-term accommodation and without a home, and in urgent need. That means still live in camps, in police stations, in detention. They have any access to their rights and any access to basic care services, and they are in constant danger because they live in appalling conditions, constantly exposed in all threats of sexual exploitation, organ trafficking, and psychological violence in general. What we do at the Home Project is we create homes for the children, as we say, and how we achieve that. We implemented a model which is threefold. We create homes and we offer an holistic network of child protection services, including, except shelter and home, the material support, legal support, educational support, psychological support. All of our children have access, immediate access to education. The second thing is that how we build that buildings, how we find that buildings. We find vacant buildings in the center of Athens, and we try with a minimum cost to bring them back in life, and in that way also to give value to the economy and to the communities in Athens that they were hit by the economic crisis. And also what we do is like offer employment opportunities. So the people that they work at the Home Project, right now they work 140 people, come from the refugee community and from the Greek community. Half of the people that they work are from the Greek community, from youth unemployment especially, and the other half comes from the refugee community. And we try to make a bridge, a cultural bridge also between these two communities, and to offer opportunities and create also role models for the children that we care for. The comparative advantage is that what we do is like our child protection approach. We try to create individual development plans for each of the child that we care for, because every case is different. That means that we have to take into consideration that they have a different cultural background, different country of origin, different age. So in that way, we have created partnerships, which is very important right now in the civil society. One of these partnerships, and it's the educational part, that the partnerships that we have, especially with private schools, and one of the partnerships is with the ACS Athens, one of the best partnerships that we have in terms of education and the opportunities that we give to the children. But before we proceed and tell you a little bit about the partnership that I want to share, also because I have Peggy here with us, let me tell you that currently we support 11 shelters. We have 2 shelters for unaccompanied minor girls, and at the same shelters we have minor mothers with their babies. We have 1 shelter for younger ages, boys and girls. It's a mixed shelter. It's from ages 5 to 12. We have 7 shelters for boys in their adolescence, from ages 12 to 18. And very recently we have started operating an 18+ shelter, and offering that shelter also technical training and give opportunities to the children to get involved with employment and the job market. What we have achieved right now is that we have given services to 520 children. We have achieved also family reunifications. 100 of our children right now, with the support of our legal team, they reunited with their families in Europe, in other countries of the EU. And we have also offered to 100 children educational opportunities, high educational opportunities, to private schools like ACS Athens, with the programs that we have there, the youth to youth, as we say, which is a program that started 3 years ago. And every Saturday, a group of our children was going to the camp of the school and was budding up with students of the school, and they having together classrooms of English, Greek, maths, art. They have gymnastics together, theater, music. And the students of the school, they actually worked as tutors, if I can say so, and helping the teachers. And this program was so, it was very well based, and it resulted also in 18 full-time scholarships that happened with the support of the Sapiro Foundation, one of the main sponsors of the Home Project. And now we offered the last 2 years 18 full-time scholarships at the ACS Athens, and we're looking forward for the next year, which is amazing to see how easily these children that they started at the ACS Athens integrated. They are now like general students of the school and have achieved an extremely development, both academically and social, in the social levels.
Thank you for that, Vassilis. Yes, we are so excited that the students are integrating so well and happy to have been able to provide this opportunity, and very grateful to the Shapiro Foundation for the scholarships. But let me also ask you, with the home project, can you tell me some of the difficulties that you saw, especially in relation to education and these minors, and some of the inequities that you saw, especially with the COVID-19 crisis recently?
Yes, there were many difficulties, I have to say so, that especially throughout the COVID period, they were more visible. For example, in the educational system, especially in the public educational system, we have several issues regarding unaccompanied minors. For example, there are limited places to find positions in the public system for our children. We have difficulty even to take the student health card, the ADIM, as you know, in the schools, because a lot of our children, they haven't been equipped with a social security number. So we have that issue to make all the necessary steps for them to be able to get registered in the public schools. We have absence of reception classes. So just to put it in a sentence, we have a system that asks from these children to adjust it to a specific curriculum. That, imagine how difficult it is for someone that does not know Greek to be 16 and go to school and needs to learn the history in Greek. So that's the difference and the comparison that came in the education of these children with the ACS Athens. Like, we created a curriculum which is adjusted to their needs and not the other way around. What happened specifically with the COVID is that, especially in the public schools, we have several delays, especially with the synchronous sessions, like the online lessons, as we call them. There was a delay how the schools created the platforms. All the platforms were in Greek and not translated the material in the languages of our children. So imagine how difficult it was for them to integrate with the platforms. And we have to take also into account the issue of resources, not only for the children that we care for, that we have provided them with the resources so that they can go and use, laptops for online classroom. But imagine for a lot of children, especially in the refugee population, without having the resources, not even access to the internet, to the point that they don't have laptops, tablets. So imagine how difficult it is for them to follow an educational system, especially an online educational system. In comparison, what happened with the ACS, and especially with the scholarships that we have with the 18 students, is that ACS was straightforward from the day that we have, let's say, the lockdown and we started the online lessons, to provide the children with laptops in collaboration with us, and also to adjust the time, because imagine that to a shelter that we have 20 children living together, how difficult it is for them to have 20 laptops at the same time on the same internet, trying to connect online via platforms that they require a lot of internet speed. So we create different times that the children, can do their lessons with their teachers. They have a constant collaboration with their teachers in order to follow the schedules. However, when they started to go back to school, what we saw as a home project is that they still had their student identity, in place. Despite the fact that obviously it's much more efficient for the children to be at the school, at the campus school, not only for the academic development that they have, but for all the other reasons of trust, of being in a place that they feel that they belong to, and they are accepted, something that they need to develop once again when they come here in Greece.
So the COVID-19 really just amplified the inequalities. And so it's so important, I think, to fight for human rights. And so I'm going to go right over to Elina, who's a student, and she's is a student, rising senior at ACS Athens, but she's getting ready to move on to university, where she's going to study public relations or international relations rather. And she has recently amplified her voice at the WISE Foundation, the World Innovation Summit of Education Learners Voice Program, talking about the pandemic and its effects on education, but as well as working with an NGO here in Greece, the Smile of a Child for Children's Rights. Elina, how did you get involved with the Smile of a Child and Children's Rights, and what is it exactly that you're trying to achieve?
So the Smile of the Child is a Greek non-for-profit volunteer organization, and its four aims is to support children that are missing, children that are victims of violence, children of poverty, and children with problems of health. But within the organization, they have a student volunteer platform called You Smile. And in spring of 2018, I was in 9th grade. I was very young. And I knew that I wanted to contribute to something that was bigger than myself. And I realized I could do that through volunteering. So I started small, volunteering in You Smile with support centers and playing with children at a public hospital. But then the Children's Rights Team was launched in fall of 2018. And because human rights are my passion and it really relates to what I want to study, I knew that if I could help my country improve in that area of children's rights where it is really lacking, then that would mean the world to me. So basically what the Children's Rights Team is a group of young volunteers who participate in this team without having their view and ideas controlled by adults. And we get trained on children's rights, participate in the decision-making procedures of the organization, and organize awareness campaigns and other actions to promote children's rights in Greece. So this idea and this scheme was kind of born because we realized that there wasn't a platform for the youth that is younger than 18 to really speak and have their voices heard on matters that directly influence us, specifically in children's rights, not only in Greece, but in the European Union as well. So we're the first team to kind of have that sort of full student platform that does not get filtered by any adult. And what we do is that we want to achieve our aims of informing the Greek public about children's rights and promoting them as well as implementing them in the government's bills and society in general. Because in Greece, kind of children's rights are not that considered important or at the top of the agenda, given all of the other issues that we're facing in our economy, with refugees, or whether that is now with the coronavirus pandemic. And so it was really difficult to kind of find a platform to talk about taboo issues of Greek society, such as children's sexual abuse or missing children or LGBTQ plus equalities. So what we do is that we have organized various summits, such as our sexual assault summit. We have our anti-bullying campaign, Speak Now, and most importantly, our proposals to the Greek government to implement children's rights in their bills through our campaign 30-20-10. 30 stands for 30 years since the signing of the Declaration on the Rights of the Child in 1989, because we started the campaign in fall of 2019. 20 because it was signed on the 20th of November, and 10 because all we need is 10 minutes of your time to listen to our proposals and sign our petition. And you can sign our petition at our website, 302010.gr. But basically, our proposals to the government include areas affecting domestic abuse, education, equality, healthcare, and more, which are all surrounded by the fundamental children's rights, with the three categories being participation, protection, and prevention of harm. So it is important to note at this point that this is a novel initiative in both Greece and the European Union, since through our campaign, our proposals on the implementation of sex education and bullying awareness in the national school curriculum have been ratified in the government's bill, in the Ministry of Education bill for next year to start being implemented. And I think the core of the Children's Rights Team is that being heard as students by people in positions of power really empowered us to continue our work, despite the difficulties of at first not having a platform, not being heard, and now with many things that had to be rescheduled because of the coronavirus, because we knew that we were supported by not only people in positions of power and adults, but also the general public, because we got a very good response from people, common people in society. And they got to be educated in children's rights, which is so very important. And I think that merely listening to young people's outlook on the Sustainable Development Goals, which is very much connected to children's rights, because they, in order for one to exist, the other has to exist as well. And education and really any other topic is all that is needed for our generation and every generation and your generation to really mend the gaps that are between us and to have an understanding in order to really move forward and change the world in a positive way.
Elina, knowing you as a student at ACS, I have no doubt that you are, a dynamic young lady who's going to continue her work in college as well. I know you're planning to study in the United States, but as a student, why do you believe that it's important to implement the teaching and learning of SDGs in the school curriculum?
I believe that the SDGs were created to ensure a viable and sustainable future for not only my generation, but all generations, future ones and current ones. So if we, the youth, are not aware of their existence, or we don't know what they are and what their importance is, then how can we implement them? And how can we implement these values in our daily lives? And how can we implement them in the future when we are going to be the decision makers in a few years' time, in order to achieve those goals by 2030 and possibly extend the goals to even better ones after 2030? The school is our primary source of information at our age, either you're 5 years old or 16 years old. Therefore, it is educators' duty to give us the proper information in order to thrive as responsible global citizens and be able to understand and act on the Sustainable Development Goals. I will pull something that my late uncle, Dr. Stefanos Yalamas, said at his last speech at Ideagen about gender equality, that we need to teach children these values from a very young age. We need to get them the minute they enter school in pre-JK. That's where we need to start, because that's when a person's perception about the world forms. Yes, right now, if we implement them now, the high schoolers are also going to be aware of them, but true change happens if we catch it early on. And in my perspective, the SDGs were not created merely as a set of goals, but for my generation, for sure, and for all generations in the future as well, they should constitute a lifestyle. Living sustainably is the only way we can live a good life right now. And I think we know that, and we have realized that in the past years, and especially with the pandemic right now. We cannot learn this lifestyle as young people without the guidance of educators, because they are they constitute a very primary model to look up to in our lives. And I can say that as a student, teachers that have reflected these values and they've taught me the values of the Sustainable Development Goals from a young age have really made an impression on me. Therefore, I think it is of dire importance to implement the teaching of these Sustainable Development Goals in school curriculums globally and effectively and as soon as possible.
Thank you, Elina. And that's why it's so very important to get the word out there, and organizations such as the United Nations to not only put forth this type of agenda, but also to listen to the voices of people such as you. And so moving over to Yana Darili, media executive, on-camera talent, writer, director, integrative nutritionist, but recently in the last few years has been very involved with the United Nations Council for where she moderates a number of panels for health, well-being, and environmental and peace topics. Yana, can you tell us about your work in raising awareness internationally and contributing towards the global goal agenda? Your mic is not on.
Thank you, Peggy. And I just want to say it's been such a pleasure listening to everyone, and I'm just humbled by everything that you guys are doing. It's just wonderful, wonderful, and very inspiring. And the world should know about what you're doing. I just want to share my experience and our mission and what we've been striving to do throughout the past 5 years with Vassilis, which is the United Nations Recreational Council. It's one of the clubs. We've been organizing panels to raise awareness. It's been on the United Nations web television, and we've aired it on other areas, in other platforms as well. We wanted to begin bringing awareness to people about the environment, pollution, about water. We've done panels about all of that. We've done panels about inequality. We've done panels for transgender care and health, health for women and health for men. And there's much more that we're working on doing. A topic that's very dear to me is, of course, nutrition and health and the inhumane ways that food is being processed, especially in the meat industry and the fish industry, what they're doing to poultry, it's just to chickens. And we are doing our best to try to get a panel going about that, about raising also, human consciousness levels with quantum professors and Deepak Chopra. We are moving towards doing a panel on education and how the curriculum should be updated and what the new needs of the students are. And so through media, through the broadcasting industry, we want to bring all of these things to viewers. And so these are some of the things that are very dear to me, these topics, and I do what I can through television to create projects that will bring awareness. And one of the projects that we're working on now is creating an animation video for children to learn more about the SDGs, but about how we are harming the planet. It is so important, and I'm a big advocate about, as a former physical educator and as a former health educator, and as an integrative nutritionist, for me, it's very important to bring knowledge through education for the new generation. We are all stewards of the earth, but the new generation, is up to you guys to save all the mess that's been created. And this next 10 years is very crucial. I mean, we need to step it up through all these means and everything that you are all doing, because if we don't, we're never going to reach those goals by 2030. We need to just, as Michailidis is doing, we need to disrupt the system, and we need to get back to nature. We need to get back to our self-awareness, self-empowerment. We're giving too much focus, I think, on technology. I think it's great, but we really need to focus more also on ethics and values and getting back to nature and helping each other and becoming more humane. It's not enough to be so advanced in technology and to see people still starving today, or human trafficking going on, or all these addictions. Obesity rates are just exploding. We're having so many issues with health. And so these are my goals and my missions, and I hope to join all of you in that effort. And we all need to inspire people one by one, because everything that we do inspires one more person to do something else. And so that's why I want to work with ACS and Dr. Pelonis with all the wonderful things that she's preparing to help develop thought leaders that are committed to helping the health of humanity, the animals, the all life forms on Earth and our planet. Because if we don't, we're going to have the new generation will have a horrible Earth to live on. And I come from the United States, which is in a horrible state. It is just, everything is wrong. The way food's being manufactured, health systems, I mean, things that are human, is a human right, are not being met.
You mentioned that it's up to the young generation to save the day. And yes. I hear that a lot in a lot of speeches at commencement ceremonies and so on and so forth. And I have to say that they will have to save the day, but on the other hand, we created that mess. It's our generation that created that mess. So I really believe that we need to provide the tools and to guide these young generations, the younger generation, towards understanding and tackling the issues but definitely we need to be there on the forefront with them. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, and that's why I'm very dedicated to helping you guys create a new curriculum, 17 capsule courses, some sort of capsule of the SDGs, and not only about health and more education, we need to implement a better nutrition for all the schools. And, health also starts in the home and the environment. And we need to retrain because the industry has promoted processed foods for such a long time. It's caused a lot of addictions with sugar and the wrong way of eating. We need to bring more education on getting back to natural food and also creating a relationship with the earth by planting. Now, this is where Michailidis comes in. We need to help people realize how important it is that we have a symbiotic relationship with the planet, with the plants, with the trees. We need to get back to that. And so I hope to work with you guys to help you develop some of these courses on, health and wellness, agriculture, planting, building sustainable global leadership, culture and philosophy, which is very important. And so this is the future for everyone, because the next 10 years is very crucial for all of us.
Let me open it up to everyone. The next question I'd like to ask all of you is, how do you think, it seems that from everything I'm hearing here today and all the things that you're doing, which are incredible, really, all of you in your own areas, and it all comes down back to education and in one way or another, providing, the information, creating awareness, providing the tools so that people can go out there and do a lot of the things that you do. So how do we educate young people today to grow up with a mindset of sustainability and living in harmony with all living things so that they can be citizens who care about the social good and do as you do to create initiatives and to turn knowledge into action? How did you get to where you are, and how do we help the young people develop this kind of mindset?
I'd love to jump in there just to kick us off. I was so inspired by everything that Elina had said to us. Thank you so much for sharing your work and your mission and mindset. And I would love to have that transposed not just across all the youth, but everybody, right? We all need to take that concept and just quote you. And we need to be living sustainably, which I think is a theme that all of us have touched on a little bit, but you summarized quite nicely. I think to make sure that we don't let this 10-year opportunity pass by, we need to be using every tool in our toolbox, and we need to be showing what works. These are huge challenges. The SDGs it's not a simple roadmap, and it is not something that no single SDG can easily be solved, especially if you do it in a silo, or especially if you don't use all the tools in the toolbox. And that can be paralyzing. I could see a whole generation of people say, it's too hard, give up, let the orangutans do what the orangutans are going to do. And that's obviously not where we need to end. And so that's where I think platforms like Concordia, Ideagen, case studies, learning tools, everything that we can do to show what's working is so important. We need to point out what's good. We need to show why it worked and how we can adapt those methodologies, those techniques, those tools to new scenarios, and thus be training people along the way so that it's not just up to the Unilevers of the world to save it, but that we have all of these actors who are aware of their role, their function, and their accountability in this, but they're also given the resources they need to be successful along this journey. So partnering is not an on-off switch. Being a good steward of the world is not an on-off switch. It's a spectrum. What I want to see is everyone take 7 steps forward. And so I think by giving examples, by showing and by using platforms to talk about what's good and working, by really standing for what we believe in every single day, you can start to move generations around the world 7 steps forward. And so I just think it's a daily thing, and we really have to tell stories. And that's where these videos that Yana is building is amazing. I remember when I was a young kid watching Captain Planet or Sesame Workshop, right? These are things that stick in your brain because that's when you're developing and learning. So if we can reach them at that age with these stories, it becomes that sustainable lifestyle that Elina mentioned.
Use the multimedia platforms, guys. You have, you know, I wish I was their age now. I would be like with the camera running around filming everything. iPhone, use your iPhone. You have a voice and all these platforms, and we have to help them do it. And you know, it's up to us to help new generation and to inspire everyone else to get on board to helping this transformation.
Definitely, we need to lead by example and inspire, but at the same time, all these young generations, they need to understand, and we have to understand also that the fourth industrial revolution is changing completely the skill set that we will need. So this is a very crucial part, because at the end of the day, what you need to bring on the table, the machines will be there and will resolve and completely transform the way we work. So the skills that we need to develop is creativity, integrity, is the skill to care and the passion to be able to understand the new way that the world is, you know, is working and is changing. That for me is the key thing, because if we don't, and the new generation that have all these access to technology, the big bet that they are dealing with is how to take a step back, understand and use the technology on the right way, and at the same time be able to read the world through the right eyes. Because, you know, first of all, read, I use the word on purpose because nobody reads anymore. It's the bracket, there is a very small capacity in all youth to sit down and read a book. And because everything is online, everything is there. But the fact, the more data is available, the more difficult it is to understand, do the due diligence of this data, and create a set of values that they will help them lead. Because at the end of the day, this is the mindset and the skill set that it will be in need in the next 20 years. And for me, this is the key issue that we need to develop as part of this ecosystem, and it's a key capacity that we need to build to the new generation.
You know, I love that you mentioned passion as one of the skills, as you called it a skill, but one of the things that are necessary to move forward. What are some of the skills that you all believe young people need to master in order to lead in the effort of the SDGs?
May I jump in? I think one of the most important skills is adaptability. I mean, we all experienced lately how things can change from one day to another. Our lives change completely. And unfortunately, there are concerns right now that the sustainability agenda might not be the top priority. And I think we all need to adapt. We all need to change our plans and our strategy right now. And I think now more than ever is the time where we need to work together as teams, wherever we are, and lead the effort of the SDGs, and make sure that we do whatever it takes in order to inspire the young people and allow them to join our efforts and support, you know, this mission. So adaptability is something that I think young and old and every generation needs to focus on right now, because things will change rapidly every single day.
If I can add, I think a skill, it's not that much a skill, but an attribute that definitely is going to be very useful and needs to be also taught within education and in order to implement correctly the Sustainable Development Goals is young leaders having ethos. And that's a value that my school, ACS, and generally Greece, really believes in. And I think the reason for ethos is because we see that so many things are going wrong in the world, and this is why the Sustainable Development Goals are needed. And now with the pandemic, it was not anymore about an individual's well-being. It was about a collective health and the idea that you're not just responsible for your own health, but for everyone. And in order for someone to lead, they can't just have the kind of the checking off the list of skills in order to get something done, but they need to have the proper motivation, and they need to be aware of the reason why they should do good. And if they have ethos, then that person will be aware of the reason why the Sustainable Development Goals are important, why they exist, and why it is of such dire importance to act on it as soon as possible. So if we learn as young leaders the importance of ethos and the importance of the collective, I think then the other skills can come much more easily.
Can I add here? I think following everything that you said, I think is very important, and something that we pay a lot of attention, especially at the Home Project, is the skill of empathy and the development and how we are educated, especially young children and the youth, how to develop healthy relationships, understanding of each other, to try to bring together different cultures and make them understand each other. Mainly in a global world, we have a lot of communities that it's very important. And in cases we are in the right way, for example, there are opportunities for students, and if I can give my advice to the young students, how they can develop that, they have opportunities to interact with different communities. For example, the program that I discussed earlier, the Youth to Youth program, it's a program that gives the opportunity from students from the host community, for example, to interact, to really interact, and not through media platforms and through news or through a theoretical perspective of what is an unaccompanied minor or someone who is a refugee. So they can really interact, understand each other, to understand that actually we are communities that we don't have things to separate between us. We have more things, and we can identify more things when we interact that combine us rather than divide us. And this is something for the young students, and there are a lot of efforts that right now happen at schools and give this opportunity to the students, and advise them to take these opportunities that will give them skills that they will not find anywhere.
And it all comes down to collaboration. Once again, the way we started talking at the beginning of this panel, I must say, everyone, that in times of doubt and discouragement, I know that I will turn my thoughts to people like you, who so humbly are doing what needs to be done to make our planet a better place to live. And knowing that you're leading such initiatives assures me that the world is in fact in good hands. So I just want to say, everyone, thank you so very much for being with us today. It has truly been an honor to hear your stories, and I want the world to hear your stories. And thank you, George Sifakis and Ideagen. Everyone, be well. Be well. Take care. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.